Hello, welcome to a VoxCommando tutorial. Today I'm going to be talking about regular expressions, and I know that a lot of people immediately run and hide when they hear the word regular expression, but I think it's an important thing to talk about because, first of all, it's incredibly powerful. Combined with the other tools that we have at our disposal in VoxCommando, with regular expressions you can do an unimaginable variety of things without actually having to do any programming. So if you combine it with Python you can do even more, but without having to write a single line of code, if you can find the right pattern, you can use regular expressions to extract all kinds of information which can be useful for asking the computer to look something up on the web, or to scan files on your computer, or to collect data from another multimedia service that you might be running, and really the list goes on and on. So the truth is that regular expressions are really, at their core, are not that complicated. And even when you know what you're doing, you'll find that some tasks are very easy to do and some tasks are more difficult to do, and you'll make mistakes from time to time when you're trying to come up with the pattern. So what we've added in VoxCommando version 2.003 and then updated more recently is a feature called RegEx tool. And this allows you to quickly grab information and look at it in a window and experiment with different patterns and see what is being found by the pattern. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. And I'm just going to stop that video camera here and switch over just to my desktop. So I'm going to cover two examples today. The first will be extremely simple, and the next one will be a little bit more complicated. So for the simple example, bring my tree here, I'm going to get information from an internet radio station about now playing information. So this radio station happens to have a nice URL that provides us simple XML information about what's currently playing on their radio station. Now all radio stations, or many radio stations, will use a completely different technique, and most of them it won't be this simple, but I wanted to choose a good simple example to start with. I also happen to really like this radio station. So I'll start just by showing you, did I copy this and paste it into an URL, show you what we get from this page. Real simple, and this is Chrome's view of the XML. To actually see the raw XML, we can go to View Page Source. So this is the information that we want to scrape, and as you can see, it's formatted in a really simple way, so we're going to be able to find a pattern. If we want to know, for example, the name of the song, this pattern is going to be really easy. So this is a good place for us to start. And what I'll do here is I'll just click Save and Execute, and then I'll select my main window here so that when I roll over the history window, you'll be able to see that it's returning the result, which is the body of that web page. Okay? So we want to start playing with regular expressions. Well, as you know, we have actions, or as you may know, we have actions for doing regular expressions, and the one we would normally start with is results.regex. But in order to figure out what this pattern is, we now have a new action called RegEx tool. And this will open the regular expression tool window, and we have one optional parameter, which is whether or not to pass last result into the window. So I'll set this to true. Actually, when we open the window, if the window is completely empty, it will automatically try to grab the last result anyway, but For testing, it's a good idea to do this. So you grab whatever information you're interested in, it's going to get put into last result, and then we open the tool and pass that last result into the RegEx tool window. So now when I click Save and Execute, sorry, it's opening on my other window, the regular expression helper or RegEx tool window opens up, and we have this information now to work with. Another thing we can do if we've got this window open, because you can also open the RegEx window from here, or when you're editing an action, we have a button here to bring this window up. You can also, from the menu, tell it to go and grab the last result. So that'll be based on whatever actions have run recently. The other option is to directly enter an URL here. You can enter in the URL that you want to scrape within the tool, and it'll go and grab the information. And I think you could also pass in a file path here if you wanted to, but eventually we'll have some more tools for opening files and saving text files and whatnot. So back to the RegEx. Here's where we enter the pattern of information that we're looking for. And if we get the pattern right, well, even if we don't get the pattern right, but if we get the pattern at least partially right, we'll get some matches back, and they'll appear here. So one thing that is a good place to start often is to just grab what you're interested in, copy that. I'm hitting Control-C to copy that, and then paste that with Control-V into the pattern field. Now, interestingly, you'd think if we click on Process Now that we'll actually get a match, but we won't. The reason for that is that there's a space in here, and the pattern does not recognize spaces. So that's kind of good in a way. You can actually put in spaces wherever you want if it makes it easier for you to break your pattern up visually. But it means that when you want to actually match a pattern, you need to tell it specifically that there's a space in there. So now you'll see that it found the pattern that we're looking for. But that's obviously not very useful. What we want to do is we want to be able to match any kind of sequence. So one thing I have here that you may or may not find useful is that we have some snippets here that just let you use this pull down to insert some common things. And one of the most common pattern sequences that we will use is this capture almost anything in a non-greedy way. And I won't go too much into specifics, but it means it'll capture the shortest pattern that's still going to fit between these artist tags. The reason we want it to be non-greedy in general is that if we had another artist tag further down, it's possible that it wouldn't just match up to here, it would actually match all the way to the next artist tag. Of course, this depends on a number of factors, including whether or not we're doing RegEx or RegEx single. But for now, let's just look at doing a quick test. Now you'll notice that when I did this, when I processed this pattern, I have a plus mark here. And this is the part that's really important, is that it's not just matching the pattern, now it's actually returning us a match that we can use. So this is match 1.1, and if for some reason we wanted to take, for example, just the last character, and in other words the N, we could create a second match here. Now the brackets say this is the information that we actually want to capture and use. So while the artist tags here are important to the pattern for telling it what we're looking for, these are actually the parts that we're going to get back and be able to use in other actions later on. So the dot means match any character except for new line. And it's just a little reminder here actually of what some of these basic things mean. This is a very short list, and I've actually, under the help, I've got links to 2 different really good websites that explain what the different tools are for generating patterns. So for example, I like this Mike's dot netting one, and it really takes you through all of these different symbols and some more complicated stuff as well. Okay, so back to our match. Let's say I'll process this. Now if you open up this tree item here, you'll see that we have match 1.1 and 1.2. So the 1 means it's the first pattern we found, that the first sequence we found that actually matches our overall pattern. That's the match 0.1 part. And then the other 0.1 and 0.2 refer to which capture we did. So this is the first set of brackets that's capturing information, and this is the second. So this will be match something dot 1, and this will be match something dot 2. Now, in order for this to make a bit more sense, what we should do probably is capture more tags. So instead of being specific about the fact that we want artist, let's say that this can be anything, any character, non-greedy, followed by the information within the tags, such as the Tracy Chapman, followed by an end tag. So this should match actually a lot of things. What we may run into problems because of these outer tags actually, but let's see what we get here. Okay, excellent. So here, this is going to be match 1.1, match 2.1, match 3.1, etc., and it's going to be the name of the tag. So here we have match 1.1 is refresh time, match 2.1 is play time, and you'll also notice that we have some color highlighting taking place up here. And also, if we double click on an item here, it will select it in the tree for us so that we can easily find it. And if you just click on something once, it'll sort of jump to that item but not select anything. So it's hard to see in this, but if you have a really long data that doesn't fit in the window and you click once, it'll jump down to make sure that it's visible. And the current color scheme is that anything that's part of the overall pattern is going to be in gray. But remember that the gray is only used to find the information. It's not actually returning information. Green is match 1.1 and yellow, or sorry, green is match something 0.1 and yellow is match something 0.2. And then we have a third color in case we find a third capture. So for example, if I wanted to double check that the closing tag matched the opening tag for some reason, I could create a third capture in here. And you can also press F5 if you want to do the match, in case you like using the keyboard instead of having to use the mouse as much. So we have a sort of plum or some kind of purple pink color for match x.3. And so you can see here, refresh time. This is the first set of brackets. Refresh time, then the actual data, and then again the closing tag would match the opening tag. Not very useful necessarily, but it shows us, it's good for demonstration purposes. So, okay, how can we use this information now in our action? Now you notice over here that we have RegEx and we have RegEx single. So we have two actions here. We have RegEx replace, which is another thing, but we basically have RegEx and RegEx single. So I'm not going to go into the difference between those two right now, but it's important to note that if you're using RegEx here, you should be using RegEx here. And if you're using RegEx single in the helper, then when you bring your pattern back into your macro, you better make sure that you're using it here as well, because you'll get different results from these things. The difference basically is that RegEx single will allow you to create a pattern that can match across multiple lines. Whereas when you're doing this, your pattern is only going to be able to match something that's on a single line, which actually is why when we just said opening tag, data, closing tag, we didn't get these, because their closing tags are on other lines. So this one actually doesn't count. But the playlist tag has a closing tag, which is down here. So if I change this to single, what we may get is just the one playlist. I'll try this. Okay, let's not get into this too much. Go back to, in general, when you're starting out, if you can, you always want to use results.regex and only resort to using single when it's necessary and you have a better idea of what you're doing. So if we wanted to make a command that allowed us to grab a bunch of information, then this would make sense. But if we just wanted to find out the title of the song, for example, we would go back to doing it this way. And all we really need to do, as long as we're using RegEx here and RegEx over here, is copy this and paste it into our pattern. Now when we click save and execute here, it'll rescrape the site. This is another important thing about using the helper, is that you're not having to rescrape the information over and over again, which if it's a slow website or if it's a really long web page, helps speed things up when you're doing testing. But here it's going to rescrape. And if we go over to our history window now, you'll see that we got the information back from the website. It opened the RegEx tool window, and then it found one match. And the match is now Hollow Mountain because there's a new song playing. Okay, so now we have this information, and we want to use it in text-to-speech or on-screen display. Now we have to choose between using either match 1 or match 1.1. Now in this case, because we only have one capture in our pattern, which is the actual data, it's actually not going to make any difference which one we use. So commonly we would use match 1. And we'll get this back. Now let's say that we wanted to grab all the tags and all of the data. So let's go back to this. Okay, so there's going to be tag name, data, tag name, data. Match 1 in this case would be refresh time, and then this would be concatenated onto the end of it. So match 2 would be playtime 7:16. match 3 would be timestamp 1407 blah blah blah, and I'll demonstrate that. Copy this pattern over here. So you can see they're getting stuck together here. Now if we wanted to just grab the tag, that's where we would use match 1.1. And if we wanted to grab just the data, we would use 1.2. Now what if we want to grab the second item? And what was that anyway? Playtime. Let's say we wanted to grab artist, title, and song. Okay, so that would be match 4, 5, and 6. So let's say match 4. We use add text, which adds another line to our on-screen display. I'm just going to copy this. Which numbers did I say? 4, 5, and 6. So match 4, 5, and 6. Okay, we have a delay there. That's probably the network. So we're getting everything smushed together. Artist Bombino. Let's do that. I'm going to actually temporarily disable these ones now. Everything's getting smushed together. So that brings up these optional parameters here. When we do the actual results.regex, this second parameter says how to join match x.1, x.2, x.3 into a single match x. So if I wanted to, I could just put in here space is space. And that will insert it between the 0.1 and the 0.2. Artist is Bombino, title is. Or if I wanted more control, instead of using this, I could say I'll use match 4.1 and 4.2, 5.1 and 5.2, 6.1 and 6.2, and I'll say the blank is blank, comma, the blank is, and the. Now I'll test this. The artist is Bombino, the title is Amedanine, and the song ID is. Alright. We don't actually want the song ID, do we? Album. So we'll switch this to 7.